Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2003 movie titled A Man Apart. Please be advised that there might be spoilers. The opening sequence features footage from Mexico's largest illegal drug manufacturing facility. Consider how many narcotics are being packaged and packed while remaining undetected. The United States Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, has had enough, particularly in terms of apprehending the leader of the largest cartel in the country, Memo Lucero. After a lot of digging and piecing together information, the DEA, particularly Sean Vetter and his friend Demetrius Hicks, who used to be a gangster before switching sides, receives a hot tip. At the time, Lucero was hosting a large party in Tijuana for his criminal associates. Soon later, Sean, Demetrius, and their DEA team arrive at the party, quickly dispatching the guards and unleashing pandemonium with smoke grenades. They launch an all-out onslaught, rounding up everyone they can. Lucero, being the sly man he is, attempts to flee with his men, but Sean is having none of it. He tracks him down, outmaneuvers Lucero's men, and apprehends the cartel boss. Frost, the DEA's major boss, can't help but applaud Sean for pulling off such a daring feat. Sean returns to the United States and into the arms of his wife, Stacy, after completing his assignment. However, the victory is short-lived. The U.S. administration joyfully declares the cartel's demise, but behind the scenes, another dark force emerges. A ruthless gang led by a dude named El Diablo begins wiping out what remains of Lucero's squad, including taking a narcotics facility that once belonged to him. Not long later, Lucero, who was imprisoned in America, learned of what El Diablo possessed, and it was bad news. Lucero promptly contacted his outside person, Ramon Cadena, and told him to keep an eye out for their other gang members. Lucero also had a friend, Mateo Santos, who he contacted to help him figure out how to cope with El Diablo and his gang. However, things took a terrible turn when Marta, a member of El Diablo's crew, abruptly assassinated Ramon shortly after he spoke with Lucero. The next day, Sean decided to throw a party and invited all of his closest friends to his home. The news of Ramon's death spread. Then Frost expressed concern that if they do nothing, the issue will worsen. But Sean only wanted to have fun with his friends, particularly Big Sexy, an old acquaintance from his gangster days. On the other hand, all of Lucero's criminal dealings were shifted to El Diablo's house. El Diablo even teamed up with an American gangster, Slayton, sometimes known as Hollywood Jack, to ensure that everything ran properly. And after they had relocated everything, Slayton urged his man, Hondo, to get rid of Sean since he may be a major problem for their nefarious operation in America. Sean had a close call that night. 3 hitmen crept into his room, but he was prepared for them. Sean defeated them all, despite suffering a bullet wound to the stomach. He attempted to obtain information from one of the hitmen before his death, but was unsuccessful. In a panic, Sean checked on Stacy, who had also been shot, and swiftly called for help. After a few weeks, Sean awoke in the hospital with his companions, Frost and Hicks, by his side. He was in for another shock when he discovered that Stacy had died just days before he awoke. Sean, overcome with grief, attempted to leave the hospital, but Hicks kept him stable. After leaving the hospital, Hicks brought Sean to see Stacy's grave. At the time, Sean was devastated and spent a lot of time alone, drowning his sorrows in booze. However, his anguish soon gave way to a desire for vengeance against those responsible for Stacy's death. Then Sean wanted to speak with Lucero, who was in prison, believing he had something to do with Stacy's murder. However, Lucero was first tight-lipped, but once Sean handed him a cigarette, he opened up a little. He told Sean that if he wanted him dead, he could have hired a hitman years ago. Sean took Lucero at his word, assuming that the cartel wasn't behind Stacy's death after all. Next, Sean approached his friend Hicks for help in determining who was responsible for his wife's murder. They thought the best bet was to hook up with Big Sexy, who was still involved with street gangs. After Sean told him about the plan, Big Sexy told them to go to Ghost Town and see if they could get any answers from the local dealers. So that night, the trio went to Ghost Town, with Big Sexy bringing along a sniffer dog to assist them. The small dog did its duty and promptly discovered a car full of illegal substances. However, as they were inspecting the vehicle, a woman approached and informed them that the owner had overdosed and died. She directed them to a residence that was known to be a hangout for the local dealers. Following her advice, they investigated the house, but what they saw was a horrible scene because everyone inside had died. And things became creepier. The word Diablo was carved into one of the bodies. This clue led them suspect that El Diablo's group was involved. And just as they were trying to piece things together, someone attacked them from the ceiling, taking them by surprise. After convincing the young man hiding above the ceiling to come down, Sean attempted to learn more about the massacre and who runs the drug scene in Ghost Town. However, that individual was reluctant to talk at first, but when Sean pointed a gun at him, he spilled the beans. He claimed that Slayton, who is tied to El Diablo, is the new main boss around there. Sean soon turned the man over to the DEA for further questioning. Following the information, Sean and Hicks tracked down Slayton, who supposedly owned a salon that served as a front for heroin selling. Sean attempted a sneaky approach by pretending to be a cop and checking Slayton's license plate, which irritated Slayton when he got ticketed for no reason. Then he inquired about Ghost Town's drug trade. Despite Sean's pressure, Slayton maintained his cool and refused to admit to being Ghost Town's new boss. Sean was going to fight Slayton because he was upset and wasn't getting the answers he wanted, but Hicks intervened to calm things down and prevent a disturbance. At the moment, a check on Slayton's plate came up clean, so Sean had no choice but to release him. Later, Slayton casually came by a buddy's house for a claimed pleasant drink, but he unexpectedly killed his pal. He then called Hondo and told his people to get their drugs out on the street before any other sellers could. Slayton was also getting fed up with Sean's presence, as he posed a threat to his and El Diablo's plans. Meanwhile, Mateo was on a mission to get Lucero's wife and son to safety, but disaster struck. Just as they entered the car, it exploded owing to a gas leak, killing them both. When Mateo called to apologize, Lucero was devastated and unforgiving. He couldn't forgive Mateo for failing to protect his family and began doubting his ability. Deep in concentration, Lucero remembered Sean's wife's horrible death at the hands of El Diablo's group. Feeling a shared anguish, he approached Sean and suggested they work together to take down El Diablo. After some thought, Sean concluded that Lucero was genuine and agreed to join forces, believing it would lead him directly to El Diablo. Before leaving, Lucero gave Sean a note containing the name of a drug dealer he should look up. At the time, Sean did not hesitate and went straight to see the dealer, a man named Pomona Joe, at his well-known tiny pub in California. To gain Joe's favor, Sean pretended to be a buyer looking to market drugs in the United States, even claiming to be stepping in for Lucero, all with the goal of apprehending El Diablo and his group. Soon after, Sean and Joe engaged in a heated pricing negotiation, but Joe eventually decided to help with the sale. He even offered Sean a girl to keep him company, but Sean, who had recently lost his wife, refused. Joe then mocked him by calling him queer, which really went under Sean's skin, to the point where Joe and his crew almost met their demise. Scared, Joe attempted to calm things down by sharing information about the secret agreement they were about to make. The next day at the DEA headquarters, Sean was all business, leading a brainstorming session on how to approach El Diablo or one of his friends during the transaction. The DEA agents would quietly arrive at the deal location, and when Sean signaled, they would swoop in for the arrest. Moving quickly, Sean met with Joe to do the clandestine drug deal away from prying eyes. When Joe called a member of El Diablo's group, Hondo showed up to ensure Sean's money was safe. Hondo admitting to eating the wife of a DEA agent at the time, possibly because he was overconfident. Sean lost it when he realized who had ordered the hit on his wife. He beat Hondo to a pulp, but just as Joe was attempting to get his undercover cop friend to arrest Sean, another DEA agent emerged. Suddenly, there was a full-fledged gunfight between Hondo, the DEA, and Joe's crew. Sean, collecting a fallen weapon, joined his DEA friends in the struggle until all of Hondo and Joe's men were killed, and the transaction fell through. So, following the bungled transaction and a hazardous shootout that killed 3 DEA agents, Ty Frost felt Sean needed a break for his own good. He was told he needed to take a 6-month break from missions. Frost simply assumed Sean needed a break after losing Stacy. Sean reluctantly handed in his badge, accepting the decision despite its emotional weight. On his way home from work, Sean decided to pay Lucero a visit in jail and inform him that his revenge plan had been put on hold because he was badgeless and couldn't rely on his DEA friends for assistance. Hearing this, Lucero informed Sean that fighting monsters required becoming one himself if he truly wanted to bring down El Diablo. He gave Sean a juicy information regarding the location of El Diablo's cash hoard in Mexico. There, he persuaded Sean to steal it to support his vendetta. But first, Lucero requested to be transferred to a different prison where he would feel safer. Next, on his unexpected day, Sean checked out Joe's tavern, and there he was, miraculously still alive and looking fine. At the moment, Sean believed Joe could be beneficial again, especially in directing him to the cash hoard Lucero had mentioned. The next day, Sean decided it would be a good idea to reunite with Hicks and their old crew, including Big Sexy, to face their common nemesis, El Diablo. But Hicks, no longer the streetwise criminal he used to be, originally declined. He was concerned about his family and did not want to cause a scene with drug traffickers. Sean, obviously, felt let down by this, so he set out to recruit other members of their former group. After Sean went, Hicks pondered the situation and, recognizing he saw Sean as a brother, changed his mind, opting to gather their old mafia buddies after all. Soon after, Sean, Hicks, and Big Sexy reassembled and made their way to Joe's bar with the intention of causing trouble. They'd put Joe in a difficult situation, requiring him to make a purchase from El Diablo's organization while under the threat of a gun. With no other option, Joe called Slayton and informed him that he was purchasing and paying cash. When Slayton heard that, he was overjoyed since it was not only a sale, but it was also his first order shipping to America, so he decided it warranted a special delivery and shipped the things over via private aircraft. So, when Slayton arrived at the location where the transaction was taking place, Sean was ready to arrest him. Sean wanted the inside scoop on El Diablo, but even when confronted with the terrible potential of being buried alive, Slayton said he didn't know because they had never met in person. Taking Slayton's word for it, Sean traveled to Mexico and devised a plot to apprehend the mafia. He cleverly concealed a tracking device in the cash that Slayton was supposed to hand over to El Diablo. When Slayton arrived in Mexico, he delivered the money bag to someone from El Diablo's crew, but because he was late with the deposit, the mafia shot him dead on the spot. Using the tracking device, Sean and his crew were soon on the trail, arriving at El Diablo's main base. The trio managed to slip in, taking down guards along the way, until Sean came face to face with El Diablo, who revealed that the man he'd been chasing was Mateo. Mateo revealed that all of this disruption was arranged by Lucero, who intended to exploit Sean for his own escape attempts during a jail transfer. As Sean tried to digest this mind-blowing information, Mateo's goons attacked him. But Hicks stepped in to assist Sean fend them off, and then it was a frenzied sprint to catch Mateo, who was fleeing down a water channel. The two then clashed, with Sean being shot in the leg, but using the last of his power, he managed to retaliate and shoot Mateo, killing him right there. The following day, unexpected news emerged that Lucero had escaped during a prison bus transfer. Feeling a sense of responsibility and vengeance, Sean went straight to Lucero's hometown hamlet to arrest him. Sean was unafraid of the site, which was closely secured by Lucero's elite forces, because his thoughts was totally focused on avenging his wife. Lucero was noticeably stunned when he spotted Sean in the village, having assumed the DEA agent had died at the hands of El Diablo. Sean, his pulse throbbing with fury and satisfaction, wanted to end Lucero right there. However, a different concept emerged. Why not let Lucero rot in prison instead? Instead of pulling the trigger, Sean placed the cuffs on him and motioned for an undercover DEA agents to take Lucero in. In the conclusion, we see Sean Vetter at Stacy's grave, surprised and moved to see her tombstone changed with a more beautiful one, a personal gift from Hicks and the crew. Sean offered a silent thank you to his pals who had always had his back, and the screen faded to black, signaling the end of the film. Thank you for watching. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.